Give me that clap. Wait, what?
Guys, the day has come. Finally! I'm gonna do another RC-505 loop station tutorial. Today, we're gonna be talking about Quantize and what it does. I had a poll on my Discord channel where I asked which video you want to see next, and with 100% of the votes going to this topic, today we're gonna talk about Quantize and what it does. I mean, admittedly, only one vote was cast in this poll, but doesn't matter. With 100% of votes, this is what we're gonna talk about today. Cause actually, I've had a lot of questions about this on my channel, but people didn't usually know that there are questions about that. They were just asking themselves why the loop station is behaving in a certain way. And the reason was that setting. So yeah, today we're gonna talk about the Quantize memory setting. Because in my all settings explained video, I kinda didn't do a great job explaining that one. And so today we're gonna do a deep dive into this. I mean, you can use your RC-505 without ever changing that setting. I've been doing that for years. But here we're doing the masterclass. The RC-505 masterclass. We want to understand all of the settings that our looper can provide us with in order to have the most possible options. I've never changed that setting because I'm happy with the default setting. But there are certain use cases where you might want that setting. So it's good to be aware what this Quantize thing does. And so this video might help you become a looping pro. That's why I want to be here. Okay, so let's check this out. Here we have an RC-505. Wow, doesn't it look good? It looks so good. I just cleaned it. Let's start with the basics just so we're all on the same page. In order to understand the Quantize feature, we need to understand what loop sync does. That's a track setting found at the end. On default, I have it on all of my tracks because I want them to line up. What do I mean by that? Let's assume I have a track with one measure here. Then I want another track with also one measure to also play in the same synchronization. From start to finish, I always want them to be aligned. If my loop sync was off for this track, then I can start it whenever and it will not be synchronized to the other tracks that have loop sync on. So all of the tracks that have loop sync on will be synchronized. Just so we're on the same page on that, right? So I want to turn this back on because I want them to be synchronized. Now, if I record a new track, it starts recording as soon as I hit the button, right? That's what we would expect. Boom, it starts recording. Boom, it starts recording. And that's also one measure, and it lines up neatly. Recording. But if I already have tracks running, then if I hit the record button, it will not immediately start recording unless I hit it at the same time where the measure starts. Such as here, here, here. However, if I were to start somewhere in the middle, it would wait for the measure to end before it starts recording. It's waiting, now it's recording. Now it's recording. And the same thing with ending the recording, it will continue to record until the measure is complete. Now it's recording. And as soon as I hit the stop, it keeps recording until it hit the measure at the end. Unless it's shorter than one measure, each recording must have a multiple of one measure. Now, let's finally go to this setting here. Quantize. There are three possible options that you have for it. Rec end, measure, and beat. Rec end is the default option. With this setting, it will only quantize to your recording. So your initial recording, that's where you will have the behavior that it waits for the tracks. When you put it on measure, however, it will also wait for the stop and start. For instance, if I now play this track and this is in sync, and I now hit that button, it's waiting until the end of the measure for it to stop. If I now stop this, it's waiting until the end until it actually stops. And the same thing with overdub. Now it's overdubbing. Now it's overdubbing. Now it's stopped. You can interpret that as whenever you hit the rec play or the stop button, it's really only hit at the end of the measure, or it really only takes effect at the end of the measure. And there's a little bit more nuance to it. And that's where the whole quantize thing comes in, right? That's where the name comes in. It will quantize to the measure, which means it will try and fit to the measure. So it will try and fit here. It will try and make you have pressed the button exactly now, right? So if you are a little early, that's okay, it's waiting for you. If you are a little late, it will still work because it's quantizing to the measure. So if you're a little late, it still works. Also with the play, if I'm just a little late, it still plays. But if I was too late, then it waits until the next measure. So it tries to fit it to the measure. It's quantizing to the measure. Do we want to find out exactly how late you can be? And 2, and 3, and 5, and hit, and 2, and 3, and 5. I think I figured it out. I think everything to the first beat is still counted as within time, is what I now found out by trying it out with a very slow tempo. Might not be always the case, but that's what I think is the case here and now. Now we also figured that out. Isn't that great? Knowledge is power. Now, there's a third setting, and that is beat. What could that mean? Well, it's not just quantizing to the measure, it's quantizing to each of the beats. For instance, here we have the 4 beats in the one measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what it would be quantizing on. However, we must also note that for recording, as with the rec end, it will record the full measure. So it will still quantize to the measure for your initial recording. So that behavior is the same. If I were to start, say, at the second beat here, it still waits for the end of the measure. However, during the playback, I can now overdub at each of the beats. If I'm between the beats, it will wait. Maybe to demonstrate this, let's make it a little bit easier to see by turning down the speed. Okay, now one measure is that long, and it consists of those 4 beats. Now again, if I record it somewhere in the middle, it waits until the full measure is done, and then I can stop it here and it waits until the measure is done. And now I have a 1 measure recording here, and if I wanted to overdub, I have to hit it at the beat, and if I hit it between, it waits for the next beat. Let's demonstrate this by putting this on 1 measure also. And then I'm gonna overdub it with every beat. And I'm gonna be like... Did you hear how it just recorded for the entire second beat and the entire 4th beat? So the 1 is nothing, the 2 is here, the 3 is nothing, and the 4 is here. Just to demonstrate this once again, if I had another measure here. Now let's say I want to overdub the 1st and the 3rd beat with ooh. You hear how clear that ooh and ah is? Even though I basically hit the button at random times between the beats. It's because it's quantizing on the beat. So to recap, in beat, the playback and the overdub is quantized to the beat. The recording still to the entire measure. On measure, everything is quantized to the measure. And on rec end, only the recording is quantized to the measure. Because as I said, a recording always needs to be a multiple of a measure. That's just how the loop station deals with it. Maybe we should also reiterate when it does the quantize. For instance, if I were to set my loop sync to off, then of course I can do whatever. I can start and stop it at any time because it is not synced with loop sync anymore, and that's why the quantize doesn't take effect at all. So if loop sync is off on the track, then this track is ignored. What else needs to be the case for it to quantize? Well, some sort of rhythm must be established at the loop station. That could be either by having the rhythm active, then it will also wait for the start of the measure until you start recording. So if I hit it here, it will wait until now for it to actually start recording. Another possibility, if the rhythm is not on, is if another track with loop sync on is playing, then it will also wait for this one to come to the end to also start here. Or the third possibility is that we're synced with MIDI, but I can't show you at the moment because I don't have an external device giving me a MIDI beat. But yeah, if the loop station was taking the beat from an external source, then it will also listen to that source for when the measure starts. So I could also just start it at that measure. Because if none of that is given, then I can set the start of the measure by hitting record. Even though I'm in the middle now is my 1 as I smash that button. Okay, that was the theory behind that. Now, how can we actually use this? I mean, it's good that we now learned about Quantize, but unless we have a use case for it, it's pretty useless. So let's make some music, shall we? Give me some drums. Maybe I should have turned the microphone off. No, actually, let's leave it like that. It's... Because why not? You hear the buttons of the keyboard a lot, but whatever, that's my beat now. Okay, we have a beat. Now for a bass line. I want a bass line. No, I want like something more housey. Yeah. And now some chord. Almost. This one is a little bit out of... This one is not quantized, right? Because since I'm just taking the input, it's not quantized when I press it here. That would be nice. I mean, if I were using Ableton for looping, then I could quantize that. But now we just live with it not being quantized. Yeah, okay, admittedly, it's a little bit, just a little bit at the end, the beat is not perfect, but we're not gonna worry about this too much. This is just a tutorial, not a I'm producing a great song kind of video, right? So we have something, we're fine with that. Because now we can discuss what the advantage of using different quantize mechanisms could be. So usually I would go with rec end, because that way I can start and stop whatever I want, like you know? No, I deleted it. And one thing that I really like to do is just take it back at the very end, and then like at the fourth beat, for instance. One, two, three, four. You know, something like that. You know? Something like that. I like to play with that to just stop and start. One. However, if we were to set it to measure, then this doesn't work anymore. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, stop? No, I wanted it to stop and then start again. That's the difference. Here we have the difference. Here I can't do that anymore if it's quantizing to the measure. But maybe I want that. Maybe I want it to wait until the end of the measure until it stops. Why would I want that? Well, maybe if I have my hands busy with something else. For instance, playing a drop or whatever. Let's see. Let's pick some. I can't stop it at the same time start playing already. So here, if I have set it to measure, that would be very helpful. I mean, I also still only have one measure of time to do this, but it's better than nothing, right? Even with having to come here and then behind my tripod and here, it still works in the one measure. Single play has this immediate or loop end, right? I could also do it with this option to play at the loop end, but then it's just for those single play channels. When setting it to beat, I can of course do the thing with getting the last beat out again, like 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, because that's just one beat that I'm taking out and it's quantizing to that beat. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I certainly hope that you understand the quantize feature a little bit better now. I personally prefer rec end as my go-to, unless I really need that little bit of time for it to quantize to the whole measure that I can start playing something else. But I hope that you learned something today in this video. I hope that it was somewhat helpful and you now know what the quantize setting does. Now, if you want to decide what video about the RC-505 I make next, head over to my Discord channel. I have another poll there. It's pretty easy to get your vote counted in that election, and you certainly have more decisive power than in certain other elections. With that being said, I hope you're having a good day. I hope that you enjoy your time with your loop station. I hope you're having as much fun as me with it. And with that, I'm saying goodbye, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye 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 bye. Da 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 da